r/AskReddit. When did the class clown take it too far? Lit a Roman candle on our bus ride home. Cops showed up and he went right out the back door and kept running. Never came back to school. This one kid thought it would be funny to snort a line of that sour powder. This was no small line, mind you. I actually think he was rubbing it off the candy. Anyways, he does his line and instantly starts screaming. His nose was gushing blood and I honestly think he popped a blood vessel in his eye. Ran out of the room and later saw an ambulance come to the school. Don't do drugs. Pulled out a chair from underneath a kid thinking it would be really funny when the kid fell. The kid ended up falling and cracking his head open and getting around 30 stitches. Senior year. Teacher wouldn't give her a hall pass to use the bathroom, which was ridiculous. Instead of taking a more conventional stand, like walking out of the room, she sat down in her desk and pissed her pants. She was suspended. I forget for how long. There were editorials back and forth in the school paper. I was on team teachers shouldn't try to control our bowels but also maybe don't piss on the floor. Though I do appreciate your taking one for the team. In a high school classroom with a chill teacher, someone made a joke about another kid's dong being small. So, that kid exposed himself in front of the whole class to prove that it was large. He got suspended. There was a class clown in my class and another one from the senior class at the time. They'd collaborated to throw toilet paper all over the schoolyard as a joke. I forget exactly what it was, but there was some kind of very important event going on that day and we were supposed to have a lot of visitors that afternoon. The principal was not amused. He said if they'd done that on any other day, he'd probably just let it go after making them clean it up. They got detention and one of the teachers made them personally apologize to the elderly janitor who had to clean that shit up in the dark when it was freezing cold. When he ate part of the squid we were dissecting. Stomach pump for you. Chuckles. Similar story when I was in middle school. We needed to dissect a perch. We were allowed to pick our own groups. But because I didn't have any friends in the class, I got stuck with the obnoxious kids. One of them had the genius idea of putting his mouth up to the fish's anus and sucking it like a straw. He ended up throwing up. Kid was always doing dumb stunts just to make people laugh. He got sick of climbing on in random things and jumping stairs one day and decided it'd be funny to smack into walls. His first few walls were fine as they were all concrete. There was a girl crying in the hallway and he figured he could make her laugh by making a funny face and tackling the glass door. He went through the door and needed stitches, leaving splatters of blood and broken glass on the way to the office. AHHH. A wasp. He then proceeded to throw an entire ducking desk at it. The wasp perched on the window. Whoops. Did he get it? Legend says that the wasp is still on that window. Junior year in high school in Algebra 2. The teacher was kind of a douche, so this one guy, let's call him Mike, would give him a hard time. This was a regular thing, and Mike would get kicked out of class for saying and doing some inappropriate stuff, but we all thought it was hilarious. One day, our teacher didn't show up to class. Word got around that his oldest son had died of a drug overdose and he had to take some personal time off. He didn't show back up until a week later and he looked really sullen and down. During class, Mike pulled out a can of Coca-Cola and started sipping it nonchalantly. Teacher had a strict no eating or drinking in class policy and Mike was aware of this. He told Mike to throw it away and step outside. Mike, the absolute ducking savage, says, "Look, I know you don't like Coke, but I'm sure your son did." Nobody laughed. Just silence. Some people didn't get it. The ones who did were just too shocked to say anything like me. Mike threw his drink away and walked out of the classroom while the teacher just sort of haphazardly continued his lesson, although we could tell Mike's comments ducked him up. He farted loudly every single day in Mr. Jensen's social studies class. It got really old. Edit. This was 7th grade middle school. This kid downed 9 ibuprofens in like 3 minutes because the teacher left the room. He managed to get a headache from it. It wasn't really funny. It was just sad. We had a teacher in middle school who had a wig and a glass eye. We had 3 class clowns that teamed up and at the end of the year, she left just because of their constant disruptions and bullying. I actually really liked her and always felt bad for her. When he yelled "I lost my virginity" to my dog during a quiet moment in class, every head whipped around to stare in horror. straight up just peed on the floor in the middle of class and convinced the teacher it was spilled water, so he cleaned it up. Honestly, not even class clown shit at that point. Just being a gross dong. He didn't get in nearly enough trouble. We had this one kid in our class in high school. I don't wanna call him weird, and I'm genuinely not sure if he had a disorder, but he spoke with a lisp and didn't seem to have many friends. Our interactions were few and, well, weird for lack of a better word. I don't mean the offensive weird, just the objective not normal. The only vivid memory I have of him is being 2 seats away from him being asleep in class, and hearing a little sputtering noise and seeing his desk coated in water. Kid between us goes, did you just throw up on the desk? He responds with no, it's just water. And then we just went about our day like nothing ever happened. Never wiped it up. Never questioned it. Just continued learning about whatever shit I was learning in that class. My high school class clown made a joke in a dead silent classroom about boning another teacher with another teacher in the room. His situation afterwards wasn't great. He yelled at my English teacher from across the room, "Your puns are more cancerous than." Girl's name. She was terminally ill with cancer and never came back to school after that day. Kid, class clown, in elementary school made fun of a boy no one liked. He was kinda an a-hole. But one day the boy said his mom had a miscarriage and the other kid thought it would be a great insult later in the week to tell him something along the lines of, "Your brother is better off dead. It's a good thing your mom had a miscarriage." Don't think we've ever rallied for this a-hole kid as hard as we did that day. Not cool. When he took the razor out of a pencil sharpener and threatened to slit the black girl's throat. Teacher wasn't in the room and we were all just staring at him like, what the actual duck? Man, I never saw him again after that day. When I was in 3rd grade we were all doing our thing. Coloring, reading, etc. The class clown was being really noisy and kept goofing off. We were all having fun and the class clown eventually sat down. It wasn't long before he was laying on the floor, foaming out of his mouth, shaking violently. We all laughed. It was a joke, right? Before long the teacher came rushing over to see the new joke the kid came up with. She immediately called 911 and he was rushed out of the room. He had a seizure while the whole class thought he was joking. He recovered and everything was fine. I just feel bad for the kid. I was at an all-state music festival, basically a concert band that students from the entire state auditioned to perform in during high school. And during some downtime between pieces during the rehearsal, the conductor asked if anyone wanted to come up and say a joke into the mic. One of the percussionists raises his hand, walks up, and tells the following joke. What do you call a kid with no friends? A Sandy Hook survivor. I absolutely could not believe what I heard. This was just weeks or maybe a few months after the shooting. I don't remember if anyone laughed. I don't think they did. And he definitely got a stern talking to. In 4th grade, we had a kid who disrupted class all the time because he couldn't keep still. It had snowed and we were walking around the room doing an assignment. The teacher went to the class next door for a minute. This kid ran out the door to the field, right outside the door, made a snowball and threw it in the classroom, hitting a huge light bulb which exploded, sending glass everywhere. Everyone screamed. Teachers came running in, and we never saw that kid again. This was in the 70s, so they probably drugged him up and put him in a different school. My sophomore year of high school, it was an English class and there were 4 class clowns in the same class. 2nd semester of school, so it was shortly after I'd been switched from one teacher's class to the new one. During the 1st semester, there was a student a grade below us that had committed suicide, and the year before that my cousin had done the same. Teacher walked out of the classroom to take something to get printed or something and left the only senior in the class in charge. Both she and I were close to the deceased freshman's family and had struggled with his death together. Not a minute after the teacher left, 2 of the clowns got up and went over to the windows, grabbed the pull string to the blinds, and used it as a noose to hang themselves. Some kids laughed. Some kids told them to knock it off. A few just wanted to finish their worksheets. But I had to leave the classroom and I passed the teacher in the hall. She saw I was crying and asked what happened. I was trying to explain while sobbing when the senior came out after chewing the clowns a new one and explained to the teacher what had happened. She actually escorted everyone except the clowns out of the classroom so she wouldn't disturb the other classes around us with how much and how loudly she yelled at them. Haha, old Gary. Well, he always used to tease this gay kid and everyone dared him to kiss him as a dare. The ducker is still running the joke today, even got married to him. Gary knows how to do the long haul when he takes things too far. Can't wait until the big joke reveal and everyone laughs. Classic Gary, doesn't know when to quit. Someone in my year at school, who wanted to be a doctor, drank a bottle of antibacterial hand wash for $5. He did it because there is nothing bad in there, his words. Needless to say, he got his stomach pumped. He tried to pants the teacher. When he casually laid down his pee-pee on my armchair to impress my girl best friend who was my seatmate. Big in it, he said with a proud smirk looking at my friend. Bruh. I would have punched it. When our science teacher went into the lab closet and he blocked the door with a filing cabinet. Then later in the year he got caught as he was about to put baby oil on the floor. One time the class clown asked what the teacher's wife, another teacher, was like in bed. It was so goddamn awkward. Better than your mother is the only acceptable answer. Somebody in my botany class decided to blow up the AC in the room with a firecracker. It sucked because if they hadn't I would have been done with my finals a week earlier. When he opened a can of tuna and put it in the teacher's bag. This teacher was such a nice lady and only ever tired to help him. Disgusting behavior. Ate a shit ton of notebook paper and ended up going home after he projectile vomited on the goddamn floor. Kid in my band class still thought yo mama jokes were funny. We came back to school for the first time after Hurricane Sandy, and the kid goes to the teacher. Yo mama s, and the teacher cut him off, died in the hurricane. The kid never told another one of those jokes in that class. Oh god. We had a well-known substitute teacher who wasn't very good at maintaining discipline, which ones are, but in her case she was particularly bad at it. In hindsight it was obvious she was well past retirement and needed the check and was willing to put up with us for it. Usually having her as a sub just meant lots of goofing off. But there was one particular day when she subbed my photography class and one kid, from the dark room, shined a laser pointer through a dark room window, a special window that's coated so it doesn't expose prints on the dark side and looks like a mirror on the light side. I have no idea if it's the same glass as a one-way mirror, but I'm just describing it, straight into her eyes. I don't consider myself any sort of saintly or extra good person, but I still cringe at watching her squirming to a laser pointer shined into her eye from what was literally 10 feet away. It was dehumanizing in rich suburban kind of way. Edit. There's also no question he likely did some permanent damage to her eyes that day. We had a younger, not great looking, substitute teacher and everyone was cracking jokes. The sub yelled at the class and the word disrespectful slipped out. This man had the audacity to tell out, bruh, your teeth are disrespectful, and got sent to the dean and was later suspended. There was a story here in the UK not so long ago about some kid who was ducking around in class and flicking bits of food at people. He threw a bit of cheese at this kid who it turned out had severe allergies and ended up going into anaphylactic shock. School mishandled it quite a bit and the poor kid ended up dying. Not sure if this is exactly a case of the class clown taking it too far. He wasn't to know, but the consequences were dire even so. He loaded up porn on someone's computer while they were in the bathroom. Teacher wasn't paying attention and the victim ended up getting suspended. He wasn't that class clown, but we were in theater and a kid with some mental disorder asked a guy if he liked gay or lesbian people in a presentation. I've never seen a room go so quiet. Then the next morning the teacher had a talk with everyone about how some things were not okay to say in class. TBH, that class was really bad. This isn't part of the question, but we had a guy punch a girl because she came out in front of the class. Ducking Gary, man. Friend decided to shove his hands into my back pockets and grab my ass. Wasn't wearing a belt. Ended up panting me straight to the floor. I was wearing spandexy type underwear at the time. Caught those on the way down too and ended up like pulling it down to where my dong sprung out of them. What was bad was worse, as our track coach had just walked in looking for me and she got a full frontal. Not to mention the class saw everything as well as I tried to pull my pants up only to realize my dong was out on full display. Didn't even get detention SMH. Asked a girl how she was Latina and black. I don't know what he was thinking. Puts tack on brother's chair in English class. English teacher is an old, very respectable, straight-laced woman. Brother plops down, jumps straight up and yells, "God damn it." Brother sent to detention. In my English class we all tried to be class clowns most of the time. However, the one time my friend took it too far was when at the end of the class, the teacher would go round picking up all the textbooks from each table while we stood waiting. When the teacher came round to collect his textbook, she lifted it up and my friend had unzipped his trousers and put his wanga through and hidden it under the book. She screamed and everyone else was so shocked at the sight of him stood there with his wanga flopped out on the table. But before anyone could say anything, he looks down and pretends to scream in fright as well, as if he did not know what he was looking at, as he lifts his arm up and proceeds to karate chop his own penis in front of my teacher and entire class. The lad got excluded for a day and got put in a new English class. I went to a Christian school. We had an ethics class taught by a nun. Class clown began joking about religion, asking about Coke of St. Peter, lewd comments about Virgin Mary, and other stuff I can't fully remember or too young to understand. Nun got so flustered, whole face turned red, and you can definitely see how angry and at same time embarrassed she was. She held out a rosary and asked the whole class to pray together for the class clown's soul and beg Jesus to lend us power to fight against the demon invading our class, all while the clown kept jumping around poking at the praying kids. She attempted exorcise the kid. She went to him and whispered something into the kid's ear. Tears began falling down his cheek and the nun accompanied him outside. I never saw him again. Officially, it was said he got transferred. This is a true story, BTW. There was a class clown who makes pretty good jokes and is all around a respected person. They recently have been dropping roasts on people in their jokes, so people are starting to dislike them. The one thing that they said to ruin everyone's respect was making fun of the teacher. Usually people would find it funnier because it's somebody a general doesn't like to begin with, but this was way too far. The teacher was asked if she was a Cubs fan and she said she is because her dead uncle, who was the nicest person she ever met, was a diehard Cubs fan. The class clown then exclaimed, "He was such a diehard fan that he died hard." This was so bad that the teacher started crying and dismissed us early so she could get better. Too long didn't read. Class clown made fun of teacher's deceased uncle and made them cry. I had my moments of class clownery. The only one I really regret all these years later was from middle school. My science teacher was telling us a story about dealing with bullies. Back in his day, some punks were messing with him and his friends and he confronted them. At some point in the exchange, he said something like, "Come with me anytime. I'm not hard to find." I'm paraphrasing. For some reason my dumb brain thought not hard to find, easy to spot, so large that you can see him from anywhere. Looking for a laugh, I spoke up and said, "Why, were you fat?" There was some muffled laughter, but all I really remember was the teacher topping almost mid-sentence, staring daggers at me, face red as hell. He stopped his story, turned to his desk and told us curtly to just work on homework. He barely said anything the rest of the class. I felt like absolute shit. It didn't register to me that, yeah, maybe he struggled with his weight as a kid and that was part of the bullying. I really didn't imagine he was a fat kid or anything. It was just a play on the easy to find mental image. Duck. I apologized as best I could at the end of class, but it was tense. At the end of the year he actually awarded me a Best Science Student Award or something like that. You know how they'll do a bunch of student awards for attendance and other shit. I think the fact that he did that means he forgave me, but I still feel like a massive heel every time I think about that. James took friendly jabs way too far with a girl he hardly knew. It got to the point where I would consider it borderline verbal abuse. Bless her patience. She kept it together far longer than I would, but one of those jabs struck a nerve with her. As a result, James needed stitches on his brow after getting a solid kick to the balls followed by another one to the head, with a pointy and hard high heel. He was lucky it didn't gouge his eye out. This didn't happen in class. This was an office. Not my class, but a kid in grade 9 was dead to snort copper nitrate. The kid passed out immediately and with a nosebleed. Ambulance was called and taken to hospital. The date was on a school's cafeteria cookie, a DANM cookie. I was in 3rd grade. My best friend and I were in the same homeroom. but our teacher was an old strict woman. At the beginning of the year she went student by student asking them questions to get to know us. She asked us what was our favorite cereal and this and that, then asked our favorite cartoon or comic strip. She got to me and I said as if learning disabled, "Charlie Brown penis." My friend cracked up. She paused and said, "You mean peanuts with Charlie Brown and Snoopy?" I replied, "Number." She asked, "What do you mean?" "No." I said, "Charlie Brown penis." She grabbed me by the ear, pulled me to the hallway and whipped me with a ruler. Back when teachers got away with it, just to make my best friend laugh. I guess I deserved it. My class clown got dared to propose to our math teacher with a choco stick in the 9th grade. He got suspended. Me in high school. My friend next to me stood up for just a quick second and I pulled his chair out and he landed on his ass. The class thought it was funny but I got a Saturday detention. In junior high, the teacher left the room for just a quick second. Kid locked her out. No one even laughed and he got yelled at when he made a joke about killing everyone around him. But then the Glock 18 falls out of his bag. Oh, what a comedian. Our funny teacher thought it was worthy to mention that the class clown got the lowest grade on an assignment in the class and teaches a lesson about what happens when you goof around all day long and not pay attention. What everyone thought was funny, since the kid was usually very upbeat and happy, resulted in him getting so embarrassed that he ridiculed our teacher for being morbidly obese, single at 60 years old, and bald. No one understood why he would say such hurtful words as a clapback. No one laughed, but he was chuckling and brushed it off. Our teacher quietly got up as it got dead quiet, took a deep breath, flung a desk across the room, and yelled his lungs out to get the hell out of his classroom. I swear, you could hear the building shake. Once he cooled down he apologized but you could hear the hurt in his voice. Our class was given a worksheet and no one said a word. He was at his desk the entire rest of class trying not to break down and at one point exited the room to talk to teacher next door who was concerned and heard the whole thing. They ended up changing the kid's schedule completely around mid-school year just to switch him to another teacher. No one found him funny anymore after that. Math teacher started each semester saying the only way to get extra credit in his class was to stand on your head, wiggle your ears, and spit wooden nickels. On the last day of the most advanced math class in our HS, the class valedictorian stood on his head, wiggled his ears, and spat wooden nickels. He really did not need any extra credit. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content. It's free and that's a great price.